Welcome to the CPM Customer Success podcast, where we help Office of Finance leaders find an exact solution to enhance their corporate performance without spending countless nights and weekends in the office. I'm your host, Andy Smetana from Nova Advisory. Nova Advisory is a 100% OneStream professional services diamond implementation partner. We help OneStream customers and prospective customers get the most out of their OneStream investment. Speaking of getting the most out of your OneStream investment, we have a special download for you to help you make the best CPM investment decision for your organization. Check that out now at novaadvisory.com/podcast. Download our free CPM Customer Success software evaluation criteria and selection workbook. The CPM assessment criteria included in the workbook are supported by episodes of the CPM Customer Success podcast. So check that out now. We link in the notes in the workbook back to the podcast episodes so you can reference those for more detailed information about that criteria. The workbook's free to listeners of the CPM Customer Success podcast, so check that out now. Let's get started. In today's episode, we have special guests from our customer, Ace Hardware, who is in the process of implementing OneStream for their account reconciliations and closing consolidation solutions. They're in the process of their full roadmap to implement the full OneStream platform. I think you'll get a ton of value out of hearing Ace Hardware's story, why they decided to start with an account reconciliation solution first, and then proceed with closing consolidation solutions. So let's get started with the episode.
Welcome to the CPM Customer Success podcast. We've got a special episode with Scott Bieniasz from Ace Hardware, and we've got Nova Advisory partner, Messina. Welcome to the show. We've got this Splash replay or recap in the Las Vegas Splash 2024 today. This presentation was held at Splash, but we thought we would bring it and present it to our CPM Customer Success guests on this special podcast episode. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Likewise. Why don't we go ahead and get started? We've got a presentation up that we'll walk through, but we'll start with introductions. Scott, we'd love to hear more about yourself, your career and background, your role at Ace Hardware, and let's get started with that.
Sure. Thanks, Andy. My name is Scott Bieniasz. I'm the accounting compliance manager here at Ace Hardware. I've been in the finance world for a little over 25 years, and I've been at Ace Hardware now for over 12 years. Live in the Chicagoland area, married with 3 kids.
Thanks. Welcome, Scott. And Sal, yourself, please introduce yourself to the.
Yes. Similar to Scott, been in the accounting and finance area for about 25 years, CPA, similar to Scott. Did a lot of work in data and forensic accounting, and eventually found my way into the EPM space and have been doing OneStream implementations for the last 7 years.
Awesome. Welcome to the show, Sal. And we can now switch up. And Scott, Ace Hardware's been on a OneStream journey here for I think about a year now. Maybe you could start by just telling us about Ace Hardware. It's a brand I grew up with and know and love, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners feel the same. We'd love to hear the insider scoop. And
Sounds great. Thanks, Andy. Hopefully everyone on the listening to the podcast has visited their local Ace Hardware. If you haven't, get there because sales are a little down this year. So we want to get those sales up. But we're having this year, 2024 is a special year for us. We just celebrated our 100-year anniversary over the last few months. So we've had a big celebration here at the corporate office. We had our ACE convention. We celebrated 100 years for our ACE convention, where all our vendors and retailers get together in the Chicagoland area. As you see on the right-hand side, these are 2023 figures. We put this together for the OneStream Splash presentation. But we are a $9 billion company. At that time, we had 5,900 retailer stores, and we are well over 6,000 retailer stores now in September of 24. Of those stores, there's 200 corporate-owned stores that I'll touch base on a little bit later. And we represent 65 countries. We're all over the world and represent 65 unique companies throughout the world. Many people think of Ace Hardware as a franchise model. And John Heisen's the CEO. He calls it the F word. He goes, not allowed to use the F word. Franchise model is not allowed to be used. But what we are, we're a co-op model. And what that means is that our corporate office where I work and where our CEO works, we all report to the board of directors. The board of directors is primarily made up of our ACE store owners. And how the co-op model works is that all the expenses are finalized throughout the year. Everybody gets their salary paid, any type of T&E expenses, et cetera. Any bottom line net income that we have at the end of the year gets paid back to the ACE stores as patronage. So that's the kind of the co-op model that people are not really aware of, but we've been in that model for now 100 years. So it's worked successfully. I was just going to add, before I mentioned that there's 200 corporate-owned stores, and you just see at the bottom of the slide, we have 3 distinct businesses. And our main bread and butter, buying and selling inventory, that's our wholesale business. But our 200 stores, our retail business. So we have 200 corporate-owned stores that are throughout the United States. That's our retail business. And finally, over the last 7 years now, we developed a service side of our business where if somebody visits the stores and needs some additional help, we offer that assistance now. So we have a hardware business, we have a plumbing business, a paint business, and most recently an HVAC business. So if you need some extra help, we're there to help provide actual handyman and plumbing or whatever you need in your home. Well, that's been a successful little ad for the last 6 or 7 years.
I found is a helpful hardware place, and everyone I meet there are folks. Clearly a successful business model. It's been here for 100 years. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
And thanks, since this is a family-friendly focused podcast, thanks for not dropping the other F for
I think really quickly on that one, Andy, if you go back just for a second, I think that the idea that there's 3 kind of completely different businesses related to ACE is really interesting when it comes to OneStream. I mean, we're talking about account recs right here, so it didn't really apply at this phase of the project. But then once we got into closing consolidation, the idea of using OneStream extensibility to give those 3 different divisions a different look at their income statement. You're going to have different sales and COGS if you're a wholesale business than if you're a services business. So the ability to isolate that, let the divisions see their data in their way and corporate see the level of detail they needed, really the extensibility really helped during the closing consolidation phase of this. I know that's not what we're talking about here today, but I feel like this is, this example is made for OneStream in terms of utilizing that extensibility to not just make this a performance management system, but allow the divisions to do what they need and get what they need out of the tools.
Awesome. Great call out. So I'll thank you for that. So Scott, if we could talk about the business challenge that ACE Hardware set out to solve for with your OneStream program, maybe you could walk us through what were the processes before OneStream and what were you really trying to accomplish?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, before OneStream, and I'll give you a little bit of process of kind of what we were doing before OneStream. But as you can see in the slides, the breakout of our account recs, majority of our account recs are done quarterly. We find as a medium risk. We do have some high risk accounts that we want to physically do an account rec on a monthly basis. But as you can see, if you do the quick math, on an annual basis, we're doing over 500 account recs now in OneStream. But now to give you a little bit of behind the scenes of what we used to do. So 500 recs at the end of the year, we're very manual. We're very Excel based. We did all of our account reconciliations in Excel. They had the same look and feel where we had a lead sheet. Everybody followed the same lead sheet and obviously different support for individual account recs. After we were done, we signed and saved them, prepare an approver, and then we saved them on our local area network. The compliance team, so my team, had the grueling task of manually checking in those recs. So if I prepared a rec and saved it on the network, that was the timestamp. So most of our recs were done on business day 10 or 13, depending on the complexity of the account rec. But once we saved it on the network, that was our timestamp. And we had to go through and make sure everything was done on time and it was accurate too. There was a report that we had to manually create. Our corporate controller wanted to see how many recs we were doing on a monthly basis or quarterly basis for that matter, and to see who was on time, getting their account recs done on a timely basis. And finally, on a quarterly basis, any material account reconciliation we wanted, part of our policy, we wanted a secondary review. So management looked at all the material items and into the secondary review. What was even more challenging on that, we went through all of the account reconciliations and we manually created a SAB 99 analysis, which is basically any reconciled item affecting the income statement, we want to know about it. Because if that consolidated list added up to a material item, material dollar amount, we probably had to go back and reopen the books. So that SAB 99 analysis was done quarterly manually by upper management, going through all the recs. And again, any reconciled item that was affecting the P&L, we were recording that and a consolidated listing. So that was a very manual process before OneStream.
And just for those kind of listening, following along audio, those 500 recs Scott mentioned, you have 60 high risk that you're performing monthly, Scott, correct? And about 400 quarterly and 100 lower risks or just annual.
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah. So at the end of the year, it's a month, it's the quarter, and it's at the end of the year. So 560 recs right there that we were doing at the end of the year, very time-consuming manual. And then even on top of that, upper management had to go through and do more manual steps on reviewing the recs and also creating that SAB 99 analysis.
Well, let's keep going. What other challenges do you were you trying to solve for with the program?
As I mentioned in the previous slide, we had a lot of challenges that we were facing as we got into OneStream. As I mentioned, we're very Excel based. Any support that we had to pull it out and embed that into Excel. The SAB 99 analysis that I mentioned, there was no easy way to get a consolidated total that was manually created. SAP screenshot. That SAP is our ERP system that we use at our ACE Domestic world. And we needed to prove that our account reconciliation matched what SAP was saying. So we did the SAP screenshot within our account rec itself. And then there was no really easy reporting. Every reporting that we had was manually created and we sent it over to the controller, the upper management team. As I mentioned in the previous slide, when we're talking about ACE Hardware, we have subsidiaries now, not only on the service business, but also in the retail business. So it was difficult to see how they were doing, how the subsidiaries were doing on a monthly basis. And what we required them to do is just grab 5 of their material account recs, send it over to us so we can review it and do it if we do it another time. So that lack of transparency was really one of our big challenges that we wanted to focus on.
You've mentioned to me previously, Scott, there was a sampling process. Is that the example, those 5 that you were calling out?
Yeah, the subsidiaries, we wanted them to send different 5 each time. They weren't repeating themselves, but even the material recs we saw over and over again because they were the high dollar amounts. But there was a 5 sample size that they chose and they sent it over to us, and then we reviewed it and we asked questions after that. They might have just been doing the 5. We don't know, but now with OneStream, we'll know.
We'll get into those solutions here in a moment, but why don't you kind of take us through other challenges around auditability, efficiencies?
Yeah, so a couple of challenges, auditability and efficiency. From an auditability standpoint, as I mentioned, we were very Excel based, so we had to create an account rec plan or account rec checklist. So we had to make sure that the account rec checklist was matching up with our account rec balances themselves. So there was a lack of integration between the checklist, the account rec plan, and the actual recs themselves. All the Excel account reconciliations had to be saved on the local area network, as I mentioned before. So that's just a very manual step that we had to do. And then what we do have external auditors that come in on a quarterly basis, and they're always asking us for account recs. So what we had to do is we had to email them, or they had a software or a website, a portal that we were able to save the account recs on the portal themselves. But every single quarter, our external auditors came in and asked us for account recs, and we had to somehow apply or get those account recs over in their hands. Now, they mentioned, Andy and I were discussing a little bit, our subsidiaries, they emailed us when they were done. And they said, we had 50 recs that we had to complete this month, and we got them all done. We said, great, and we moved on. But we had we had lack of knowledge if that was actually even true or not. So that's an auditability challenge. And then from an efficiency standpoint, we have a pretty fast close from a P&L standpoint. ACE closes the books from the domestic side in about 3 days. But there are always balance sheet adjustments after that fact. So if there was any manual journal entries we were create that were fully on sheet, we would have to email those users that were in charge of those account recs and say, hey, we hit your balance sheet account. You need to change your account rec. We need you to update your account rec at this point. So that was all a very manual process of communicating late balance sheet adjustments. The account rec plan checklist, we had to create that manually every single month. Sometimes we're adding new accounts or deleting accounts that haven't been used in a while. So that manual checklist that had to be done every single month. And we had no AutoRec process. With efficiency, there was no AutoRec process. We had to physically do the recs every single month per quarter. And it took a lot of extra time to do some of these account recs that really didn't need to be done on a monthly basis, but we need to have a process in place where there was no AutoRec process. There was no AutoRec process that we can do before OneStream.
Yeah, plenty of challenges. So I'm excited to hear how your life is changed and different with OneStream.
Well, really quickly on that manual process, Scott, where you're talking about communicating those late adjustments, there's a downstream kind of trickle down effect of that, right? So you not only got to communicate to them, right, that balance change. If they had already prepared their rec, they'd have to go put a new screenshot of that balance, update their rec, which you would have to do in any case, but the new screenshot would be a net new activity. And if there was a new adjustment that hit P&L or was related to P&L adjustment, you'd have to know about that. And maybe you didn't know about it, but you'd have to know about that, go back into the rec, pull that back out to your SAB 99.
There was definitely some angry accountants sometimes because of these late balance sheet entries. And to your point, there was a lot of manual stuff that they had to do if they already were done with their account rec. And sometimes we have a case where they prepared it and their super gaps are already approved. So now they got to go through the whole process of preparing it and then reviewing it and sign off on it.
Yeah, that stuff's ultimately going to happen, but you want to make it as painless as you can if it does. But it definitely was painful.
Yep.
Okay, let's move forward and let's talk about solution. That was plenty of challenges you covered, Scott. Let's talk about your OneStream process and really talk through the administration of the process and how users are adopting and employing.
Yeah, I love this slide because if people are just listening, there's a woman with her hands up in the air saying, "I got OneStream now," and it's true. We'll talk a little bit about why we started with account recs later on in the presentation here, but it's been a huge help now that we have OneStream in place and ACE hardware. As I mentioned, we have some subsidiaries now. Each of our subsidiaries is using a different ERP system other than SAP's at the corporate level, but now we have a direct connect from their ERP system right into OneStream, which is a direct feed. So the ERP systems that we're utilizing, SAP, as I mentioned, we also had JD Edwards, Epicor, B1 is our international division, and then our service division is on Sage Intacct. So we have 5 ERP systems now that have a direct connect link between their ERP system and OneStream. And then after we got OneStream up and running for everybody, we assigned an administrator. So everybody needs an administrator within the OneStream system. So that OneStream administrator can now add new accounts. They could create new intersections between account recs. A lot of times we do many geo accounts within one rec. So they have the ability to group those into one account records. So the admin process is very important for those individuals at each of the divisions. And then now that I mentioned, the admin process is important for one individual, but now we have every single account, not only at ACE Corporate, but also at all the divisions, our subsidiaries, utilizing the OneStream software, completing their account recs within the system itself. Once a prepare is done and they click on prepare, in OneStream, their approver, their supervisor is going to receive an email saying that the account rec is done and it's your turn to start reviewing. Before, the accountant had to email or somehow do a Microsoft Teams message or go over there and pat them on the shoulder and, hey, my recs are done. It's time for you to go in there. Now all the recs are done and it'll be done in OneStream. And then any support that we have within the account recs, that could be uploaded directly into OneStream. As I mentioned before, we had to upload the support within the Microsoft Excel account rec itself. So all the users are happy. It wasn't, every change is sometimes hard. So it was hard for some people because a lot of people, I've been here for 12 years, but I'm a baby at Ace Hardware. There's been people here for 20, 30 years. And then we've been doing account recs in Excel for 2 decades. Now you want me to use the software? So there was a little bit of pushback, but everybody's excited now and they have definitely found time. They have time savings now doing their account recs in OneStream. So it's been
About how many people are you talking about that are involved in the account recs process?
with all the subsidiaries and Ace Corporate, there's 120 users are in the system working in doing account reconciliation.
It's a lot less Teams messages and taps on the shoulder you're getting about everyone.
Very true. Very true. And then finally, my bread and butter is the compliance process. And as I mentioned, there was definitely time savings physically doing the rec. But the big win was on the compliance side. We now know when an account rec is done, not only on the corporate level, but on the subsidiary level. Before we were manually checking those in off of the local area network. Now we know it's right in the system, whether it's prepared and or approved. It's our controller now knows when the subsidiaries are done as well. Before we had to tell him whether they were done or not. Now he can go in the OneStream software and actually see himself. And as I mentioned, remember we were at a quarterly basis from a corporate side, we were creating that SAB 99 analysis, any reconciled item that was affecting the P&L. We were manually creating that consolidated list. Now in OneStream, that consolidated list is done for us. So there's been so much time savings on the compliance side. Now that we have OneStream, a huge time saver on that end.
Okay. Let's pull you in, Sal, and talk about transparency. And could you really help talk us through how we've transformed Ace Hardware's account recs solution with OneStream and how we accomplished improvement of transparency?
And I love when Scott talks about all the problems and I get to come in and talk about the solutions and the benefits. It's a great feeling. So Scott ended up there on the SAB 99 analysis. This is one where Scott mentioned on the left-hand side, if you're watching the video, that was a manually controlled spreadsheet. And it really is based off what Scott and his team knew at the time. The changes to recs wouldn't automatically update this. Someone had to go into every single rec to see if there was a big reconciling item on an annual basis. That's 500 recs you have to go through. A lot of risk and a lot of work that goes into that left-hand side. The Scott and team part of the process is developing the process of how you want users to consistently track rec items in OneStream. But once you've developed that process and roll that out to your users, you're able to create the report we're showing on the right that automatically goes into the recs and pulls out the items that we know are affecting P&L. So you get a real-time view of what the total of that is to know whether you got to open your books and rebook adjustments. There's a real-time savings, 15 hours per quarter. There's also less risk in this kind of process because we're automatically picking it up and you never have to worry that something's changed and you just never redid the analysis. Also, from an auditability process, Scott mentioned that auditors would require a screenshot of the balances from SAP and then eventually for the other divisions from their ERPs, because there really was no load process, no way to audit what balance they were including in their rec. It was pretty manual. Bringing it all through OneStream really it imposes a process that takes your trial balance, an auditable process that takes your trial balance, rolls it up into a rec, and then that whole process, audit could come in and say, once they understand the process, they audit it, they check the last time that integration was run, they get comfortable that those balances are correct and they can do some of their testing there. But it's not about making sure each individual rec picked up the right balance. They get to audit one process for all the recs. And that process is the same for closing consolidation as it is for account rec. So you get a little bit of a benefit there as well, that you don't have auditors auditing both processes there. They get comfortable that the integration from the ERPs are working from a close perspective and an account rec perspective.
And there's a 500 account recs at year end, about a 2-minute saving per rec. So that's substantial.
Yeah, I can check, but we had to do it. You'll mention we had to do a screenshot for SAP, and that it's simple to do that. Everybody can do a screenshot, but at Sal and Andy mentioned, there's 500 recs that we had to do at the end of the year. So to do a screenshot in SAP took about 2 minutes. So quick math, over 1,000 minutes that we're saving at the end of the year for all the 120 accountants there are physically doing a rec. So huge time saving there.
Yeah, and this is even for, we'll get to some of the efficiency stuff later, maybe stealing a little of your thunder here, Scott, but it had no balance change. You'd still have to go get that balance and pop it in here. And we have now an AutoRec process that just, you don't even have to touch it. The transparency's there, the auditability's there, a lot better situation than we had previously with everything being kind of separate Excel files. Yeah. Rec status in OneStream, you always know the status of your rec, which ones have been prepared, waiting for review, which one's been approved. Historically, managing all these things in Excel, this is part of that process I mentioned, was this check-in process. They always had to go in, see when the rec was done, capture information if it was done timely, and do reporting to leadership on where things were at. And it was good for that point in time. So it was a lot of work that went into just creating a point in time look at the recs. And then if we wanted to see it a day later, had to go through the same process, had to update that. With OneStream, it's automatic.
Okay, so let's move on and talk about auditability. I know auditors love OneStream because they can track everything and they can report it back and see it back to the data source. So let's talk about that process for Ace Hardware now.
Yeah. We talked about how now there's an auditable process getting balances into OneStream. And so that's part of what auditors will look at, but they also want to look at the account recs. They'll sample account recs based off what Scott mentioned before. And there's a couple ways you can engage auditors with OneStream. One, there is an audit button. If you're watching the video at the bottom, and you click on that button and it creates the report that's up in the top right-hand corner, which gives you all the details you need for that rec, and prints out the rec and any attachments that were part of it. So you can take that rec and just send those to auditors, but you also can pull auditors into OneStream, give them controlled direct access to them so that they can go in here and have this be a little more self-service and allow them to go in and directly review the recs that they see.
Let's turn it back to you, Scott, and talk about the efficiency with the new process. Can you walk us through and tell us more about what's different, better, and more efficient with the new OneStream process?
Sure. Everybody is excited about some efficiency changes that we now are seeing in OneStream. So as I mentioned earlier, when we were doing this before OneStream and there was some late balance sheet adjustments, we'd have to email individuals, say, hey, your balance has changed. You need to go back and do the rec. Now in OneStream, when we upload a new travel balance into OneStream, if the balance has changed, the preparer is going to receive an email and your balance has changed. Something you got to go in there and adjust now. So they'll know exactly when and immediately when their balance has changed. And it's a lot of additional time saving because they'll get the email and number one, they can do it on their own time at that point. But then also from a support standpoint, there's probably very little that they need to adjust before they probably had to redo the whole entire rec. Now they just need to adjust any type of adjustment that happened. So just change the account reconciliation for that one small adjustment that came through after close periods. The notifications from OneStream are huge, not only from the balance change standpoint, but also the repairing standpoint. The approver knows when their account reconciliations are done. So efficiency has been a big help for us. And then next slide, the account rec attributes. So as Sal mentioned before, we were doing on the left-hand side, if you're looking at the presentation, everything was created manually. We had an account rec plan that we made We had a risk matrix that we had to do. We had to update manually for any type of adjustments, showing kind of when the frequency of the account reconciliations are done. But now our book of record now is OneStream. So OneStream shows any type of changes that happen within the accounts themselves. It shows the frequency that the account has to be adjusted. And then more importantly, it shows the risk matrix within OneStream itself. So we know any high risk should be done monthly, medium risk should be done quarterly, and then finally any low risk accounts have to be done and prepared annually. So all those rec attributes are maintaining the OneStream software, and that's our new book of record now for completing account recs. And that's just not only here at the corporate office, but that's all throughout all of our subs as well. So it's been a huge help for us. And finally, this is probably the most exciting one from efficiency standpoint. As I mentioned before, we always had to complete an account rec, whether it was $0 or whether it didn't have a change from a prior month. But the OneStream software is pretty slick. You're able to add AutoRec rules. But we have two rules that are implemented right now. Number one is if it has a zero balance, it'll be AutoRec and auto-approved. Second rule is that if the balance is not changed from the prior month, it's going to be AutoRec and auto-approved. We still want the accountants to look at their accounts, make sure everything's still looking good, but the physical preparing their rec and submitting it is not necessary anymore. It's not the OneStream software itself. This has been approved by not only us, but our CFO. They're aware of this AutoRec process. Again, they still look at your recs, but the physical preparing and actually submitting an account rec is not necessary because the AutoRec rule is in process. And there's over 20% of our recs that are now done automatically. The accountants are super happy. Their approvers are even happier too, because they don't need to go in and actually view a 0-1, review something that hasn't been changed over the last month. So this has been a huge help for us over the last year or so that we've been in the OneStream software.
Yeah, love hearing about the efficiency gains. You're calling out kind of 20% auto rec process. Sounds like a huge improvement.
For sure.
Okay, so let's talk about the roadmap. One of the things that Nova Advisory loves about OneStream, it's a unified platform. There's solutions available, and our clients can continue to evolve their use and expand the platform and take advantage of the capabilities. So I'm going to transition back to you and ask us to walk through the roadmap that we've laid out and we've been working together to deploy for Ace Hardware.
Yeah, and definitely I've lived previous lives pulling together point solutions and pushing data around, and the idea that OneStream can do all of it in one platform is really powerful. It's the reason we've been doing this exclusively for the last 7 years. What's also interesting about it is you don't have to start the same way for every client. In this case, and Scott, I'll probably have to expand a little bit on it. The business case was around account recs and the funding was around account recs. So account recs was going to be the starting point for this. And we are in process of doing closing consolidations, but we had to start with account recs, and that's perfectly fine in OneStream. And maybe Scott, you can talk a little bit about why account recs and what you were evaluating at the time and why you decided to go with OneStream.
Yeah, sure. We, as I mentioned, we've been for several decades, we were doing account recs in Excel, and we all knew it wasn't super efficient. And as the years have expanded and there's solutions that are out there, people have come to us and said, hey, we could do account recs with the software. We received calls from Blackline, we received calls from Trintech, and we received calls from OneStream. So we were looking for an account rec solution. We got the green light to pay some money and get the account rec software implemented at Ace Hardware. We looked at Trintech and OneStream. When we spoke to all three vendors, we noticed that OneStream could do more than account recs. We had OneStream meet with our close consolidation team, and OneStream meet with our budgeting and planning team. We had OneStream meet with our tax team. We said, wow, OneStream can do a lot more than just account recs. So let's go down this path and not only help out the accountants doing the account recs, but also help our external reporting team closing and consolidating all of our and all of our theories. Our budgeting and planning team using BPC, which is an Excel-based tool, very manual budgeting and planning team. Let's have OneStream help them out too. So there's been a lot of extra stuff that OneStream can do besides the account recs. But again, we got the green light for account recs. That's why we started with it. We ultimately chose OneStream because it could help out a lot more individuals than just people blue know.
I think that's great perspective, because it's always challenging when you're looking at a process and you're evaluating point solutions versus platforms. And it really good that you guys saw that possibility with OneStream. And we're right in the middle of this roadmap here. So we are done and ready with account recs. We are now working on closing consolidation, looking for a go live towards the end of this year. Going into next year, we're looking at budget forecast, what we call light, more for a collection of data, allowing forms and some centralized process for some coordinated process to pull the information in, add some data quality to it, and allow for reporting variances and stuff like that. So our focus initially on budget forecast is going to be on collection and reporting of the data, but then we're going to get into some of those other more advanced budget and forecasting items, people planning, going down to the person level and being able to add factors for what's my merit increase versus increases in taxes, and all those things, leveraging power of that marketplace solution to do better forecasting at a people planning level. Also looking at doing some driver-based forecasting, capital planning, and project planning as well. From a driver-based forecasting perspective, you have users who go in and either apply a flat percentage or want to voice forecast off of volumes. If they're doing that repetitive process, we want to build drivers in there, a process for you to assign those drivers and automate that process. That'll be coming maybe next year, going into 2026. We're also looking at transaction matching. I think that the most standard use for this is cash recs, but DIB cards is also a pain point for ACE. So we're looking at transaction matching eventually for that. And then finally for tax provisioning, probably 2026 or 2027.
Wonderful. So full platform rollout. I think that wraps up our presentation content, prepared content. Scott, any type of parting words?
Sure. It's been a fun process. ACE is finally been able to grab a solution that will help out many individuals within the finance team. There's definitely been a lot of people here at the corporate office that have definitely helped us get there. So thank you to all of them. And then finally, thanks to the Nova team, Andy and Sal, and the whole entire Nova team. It's been a pleasure working with you guys. You guys have been helpful, kind of guiding us, even hand-holding us sometimes. We needed some hand-holding throughout the whole process, but thank you for your time and your commitment. It's been a pleasure, and we're just starting. We're just getting started, as Sal mentioned. We have a lot more to do in 2025 and beyond, 2025 and beyond. So we're looking forward to a good relationship with you guys and good partnership. So thanks for all your help.
Yeah, and the same on our end, Scott. I have gone to my local ACE plenty of times, as we talked about it. My son's in Scouts, and I'm there every year for the Pinewood Derby. And you guys are the helpful hardware folks, but it extends beyond just your stores. At the corporate level, this is a really good partnership. You guys are very helpful in helping us pull out requirements and build this to better improve the process. Really great relationship with you guys. Really appreciate all the support.
With that, we can call this episode of CPM Customer Success a wrap. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Sal. Really appreciate your joining the show today.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the CPM Customer Success podcast. Thanks again for ACE Hardware, for your support in being a great customer of Nova Advisory. Remember to check out the CPM Customer Success software evaluation criteria and guide to your CPM decision process. The OneStream capabilities we've been describing in the CPM Customer Success dive deeper into each criteria. So check out the Nova Advisory website, novaadvisory.com/podcast, and download our free CPM Customer Success software evaluation criteria and selection workbook. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next week for another episode of CPM Customer Success.